Good day, everyone. Good day. It is Money Monday, and I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. I am so glad to join you on today on the Juice Radio and Talk Show as we go into another conversation today with the influence of the election. We want to make sure that you understand that there are some business strategies that you can take to remain resilient and to ensure that you continue in a growth pattern. Everything that we have gleaned over this last, 11 months are still valuable and beneficial to you, but you now have to level set in a new way so that we can move forward. And I just wanted to share some things that you can consider as you operate within your business, within your operation and your team, so that you have information. Information gives you power to make knowledgeable decisions. So go ahead. We're on the Juice Radio and Talk Show on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, and several other platforms. Go ahead and like and share as we get ready to go into today's session. Thank you for joining Money Monday. Get ready.
Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV's church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Clovis, special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Today, this is the day that we also want to recognize and celebrate our veterans. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your time. And we extend our love and our prayers to you, each and every one. We want you to know that you are appreciated today and that you are thought well of and that you are lifted up before the Lord. So thank you again as we acknowledge Veterans Day on today. And then we want to go ahead right on into our session for today on Money Matters as we talk about really some of the influences from the most recent election as we go into Money Monday, Money Matters. I want you to recognize that they go hand in hand. And so today we really want to talk about some key points. We won't go into in depth, but we want to make sure that we give you enough information so that as you start to close out this year, as you prepare to go into the new year, that you make some good decisions that will make sure that you are strategizing and planning ahead, right? We want to have a roadmap. We want to have a strategy so that we're able to be competitive in our market. We want to make sure that we're not lagging behind, that our decision pace are proactive, not reactive. And so that's why it was just led in my heart from the Lord to make sure we talk about certain things today so that you can consider them as you dialogue, as you prepare to get ready with your taxes, as you prepare to close out the books for this year, as you're looking at the roadmap to completing well, to finishing strong in 2024, and then your vision casting, what you're going to be doing in 2025. These are some key and critical things that you want to consider so that you are looking for information. It depends on the field that you're operating in, what your business line in, what is your consulting business in. Those are the dynamics that you need to have a lens to view the information through so that as you go in your own planning, in your own team dynamics, as you operate together collaboratively to make decisions and to move forward, that you do so in a way that makes sure that you are resilient and that you're continuing on a growth pattern. Listen, whatever you decide today impacts your tomorrow. It impacts your next week. It impacts your next month. And so that's why we're saying it is so important that you pursue greatness, that you pursue your vision, that you pursue in the method that you've already crafted. Listen, what do we say? Consistency plus focus leads to success, leads to progress. So you have to be consistent and you have to have focus if you want to get to progress. And so today we're going to just outline with the recent presidential elections. We know that people are certainly have a heightened attention. Some are perhaps even concerned about what may happen. But this is where you have to, one, rely on faith, right? That we believe and walk by faith. And then secondly, we also use the tools and the information that's available to us so that we can leverage ourselves to win. And so I want to just make sure that you know that you are right set to continue in the path that you've already started, that favor is still extended toward you and you can still win in what God has given you. Your purpose remains the same. And this is what I always say. Purpose over preference. So we might have preferred things to be different. We might have preferred a different outcome, but purpose over preference, right? And then we want to make sure that we recognize it is calling over comfort. We want to make sure that we stay in the calling. We want to stay in the vocation to which we have been anointed and gifted to do, so that we excel in it and that we do well. So we want to talk about today, one of the main key things that we want to talk about is that we know with some of the upcoming changes, of course, there will be potential changes in policies, potential changes in our economic focus, some of the lenses. There might be potential changes in the market impacts. And so we want to make sure that you take actionable steps. Some of us are delayed in our actions. And so that's why we're having this conversation now in November, so that you can prepare for what is to come, so that you don't wait and be reactive. We want to operate from being proactive. We want to think ahead. We want to stage ourselves so that we can maneuver and we can navigate whatever happens. That's what we want to encourage you today, so that as you operate in faith, you navigate the waters. Regardless of what was going to happen, we know what reality is today. And so we have to operate from that perspective. We want to make sure that we form our minds, put our guardrails around our minds and our hearts so that we can move forward. And so one of the things that we do want to consider is particularly some of the economic impacts that may happen during a presidential transition, right? As we prepare to transition, some of those could be our corporate and personal tax rates. So you want to take a review of your taxes. You want to look at your capital gain taxes, some potential tax incentives that might even come about for small businesses as a result of the transition of power. So you want to be a information gatherer. That's what I want to encourage you today. Don't be moved by what is said or the voices or the noise or the distractions. Look at the data. Look at the data. Go after what information so that you can look for trends, so that you can look with confidence at what is about to happen, so that you can make a reasonable decision, so that you have the ability, right, to strategize ahead. So one of the things, as we look at that potential changes in our corporate and personal taxes, right, we're just about to get into that time of closing the books for 2024. This is the right time. Don't wait until March. Don't wait until April to start having conversations with your tax person, all right, or with your accountant, to start having those kind of conversations with your team, to make sure that you're going through your organization, make sure that your books are being refined, make sure that you're capturing all your expenses and all your revenue so that it is not a crash and a crush to the timeline to get things done. You have good timing now. If you haven't been tracking all year, if you haven't been making sure that you're marking and managing your milestones and making sure you're documenting, make sure you have things categorized to make it easier for closing the books, now is the time to start. Because that way you'll have your preparation in place with your tax accountant. You can have those kind of strategy conversations, and so that you can plan either for a tax increase or a tax decrease, right? Because you want to recognize whether I'm going to have a much more significant due diligence in ensuring that I am compliant with the IRS. You want to make sure that you are running a business. So you want to ensure that you are compliant with the expectations that is necessary for your business to stay solvent and to stay with an open door, to stay open. So you really want to look at that. So tax policies is one you want to start to consider. The next one is any regulation changes. Regulations may be changing, right? So look at your particular sector, your field of business. Are there changing in some of the things that your production of your product? I've heard news too of some of the changes in how we get products into the U.S. Is your product or service dependent heavily on certain areas of the world to receive those products in? These are the kind of things that you might want to start considering. You want to evaluate, things that could change in different sectors of regulatory around energy, around healthcare, around technology. So you want to be pursuing information so that you can make good decisions. One of them is to stay informed. That's what I'm trying to tell you today. Stay informed. A lot of times we're waiting for word on the street. No, go to the word from the market. Go to where you can have statistics. Go to where there are researchers and analysts and people who are watching and monitoring. Make that your habit to listen to them so that they can help you stay informed about potential regulatory changes in your industry, in what you do. Even if you're in ministry, what might change about a 501c for nonprofits. That could be very impactful to you and your ministry and the things that you do. So you want to make sure that you are evaluating all aspects of regulations that could influence how you operate today and how you operate next year. Because you might need to start making some pivots, making some adjustments, making some minor moves for now, so that when these new regulatories come into place, you are level set, you are ready to be able to move and migrate with efficiency and with effectiveness, with limited impacts. That's what we want to do. We want to downsize the impacts that could be negative, and we want to leverage all the impacts of the change that would be positive. But you can only do that if you get ahead. You can only do that and use it to the maximum if you're able to leverage it right when it comes into effect. And so again, you want to look at those sectors where your business operates and how they might be influenced. So again, stay informed with potential regulatory changes that impact your industry, and consider joining some of these industry-related associations. If you're a person who's busy, you don't have a chance to go through a lot of data and synthesize how that might impact you or influence you, join an organization that is specific to your particular industry or your particular capabilities, what you plan to go into as an entrepreneur, innovation. This is still, thank you, Holy Ghost, this is still good time. If you have been thinking about pursuing a business in 2025, don't stop your vision. Don't stop your purpose. Continue to move forward, but now get more data, get more information. So aligning yourself to one of these industries will be beneficial as you evaluate them and make sure that they're giving you the context and content and information that you will find valuable. But it helps you get a summary, because there are people within that organization whose whole role, I'm in several organizations about information related to what I do in business, what I do in the marketplace, what I do as a business owner. And so that helps me, because I don't have to synthesize a lot of rules and regulations, a lot of data. I'm able to, through my organization, get the highlights. And then from those highlights, I'm able to review those and then dispose, let me deposition, let me go through it, let me get the information, and then let me look at it and see what really influences me in my decisions. And so that gives you the opportunity to leverage time, the opportunity to leverage information and power of others, so that you're not doing it all yourself. I want to encourage you, don't go it alone. Yes. Don't go it alone. And so you have your team. Maybe you can assign that role to somebody on your team, not necessarily to you. We talked about that in ministry training. Delegate to those who have experience, expertise, and a willingness of heart, and they can do these aspects for you. So delegate that portion to someone who can then therefore bring it back to you and bring it back to the team. And then you'll have that information available so that you can make good decisions, again, about any regulatory changes. The next one you want to think about, write this one down, is tariff and trades. Again, tariff and trades. Sometimes with potential presidential transitions, they often impact international trade policies. This is just a natural course of that transition that happens in passing the torch in policy and regulation and administration. This is normal. This is normal what happens. And so what you want to do is discuss how do any of those influence your business, and then make the adjustments, especially if you're working again with anything that's international, over the seas. If you have a business and you are leveraging a vendor that is out of the country, you need to be paying attention to tariffs and trades. You need to be making sure that you're aware, are the tariffs going up? Is my fees going high? So therefore, maybe I need to pursue a vendor who is more local, meaning in the States, not necessarily in your city or in your state, but do I now need to pivot, right, and make a different decision? Do I need to evaluate that based on the changes that are being expected and analyzed for changes to trade and tariffs, right? So you want to do that, diversify your chain supply. That's what we're talking about. If you have one vendor and they're offshore, they're international, you want to diversify, because you don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe I need to now pursue and maybe have 2, 3, right? Because if the borders, or if there's something that's closed, or if there's a trade disagreement or a change or a shift, I need to still be solvent in my business. I still need to be able to operate. So being able to diversify, having multiple streams of vendors or partners that I relate to and communicate to, ensures that I'm still able to deliver on my promise and commitment to my clients. That is our role as the business owner, is still to be able to deliver on what we committed to do. And so you might need to think about that as there are possible shifts in imports or export costs, right? If you're sending things offshore, or if you're servicing people from offshore and international, then you need to make sure that you are evaluating that, because there will be a residual result to the way that you operate, right? So again, you want to make sure that you are diversifying your supply and demand. You want to make sure that you are adjusting to manage for any potential price volatility. Remember, we just did that session last week on profit margin. What you pay out matters. So if pricing is going to start being a little volatile, if it's going to start shifting, if you're going to be expected to pay more for what you used to pay in 2024, you need to be prepared. You need to have your eye on the prize. You need to recognize that I might need to do something different so that I am able to still keep a good profit margin. I need a good profit margin. I need to be able to get more in that I retain than I send out in expenses. And so as a result of that, you need to be able to adjust in your sourcing and manage for potential change. The next point we want to talk about, number 4, we want to talk about labor and minimum wage policies. So again, some administrations push for higher minimum wage, new labor projections and new labor protections, new labor benefits. And so you as the business owner will be influenced by that if you have employees. And so if you have employees and you're paying for their services and you appreciate all that they bring to the business and you want to retain them, then you need to also be evaluating what might happen in our wage changes, right? What might happen in any new labor policies or protections or benefits. That means you might have a higher expense in 2025 that you will need to account for, that you will need to be able to manage, that you will need to be able to level set on. The next one is really preparing for that. How do I prepare for that? This is a potential that can happen. Then how do I prepare now? How do I be proactive and not reactive? Some of the things you want to do is anticipate potential changes in your payroll costs. That's what we're talking about. Looking at payroll, what you're paying today, what is the most likely increase that will happen for next year? And then how do I now manage that so that if I do require an increase in payroll costs, how do I associate that to my revenue? So this is especially critical for those of us who have service heavy businesses, meaning you have a lot of resources, service, people who are helping to deliver your product or service, people who are labor intensive, businesses that are labor intensive. Then you want to consider where are they perhaps some automation options or adjusting your operational budget for 2025. How do I now adjust my operational budget to level set for potential changes to labor in the labor market for 2025? All right. So you really want to pay attention to that because that is key, especially if you are a labor intensive business. You want to pay your people well. You have to be able to associate it and be in compliance to whatever rules or regulatories come about. And so you want to be a visionary leader. You want to lead from the front. So you want to think about that in advance so that you can prepare, right? So that you can be ready and anticipate if there are potential changes in the market. One of the next things, number 5, we want to talk about is Federal Reserve and monetary policies. So, of course, some of the changes that come about from a new administration would be Federal Reserve changes, Fed rates, right? We've seen them. They've been going down in the home market. But new policies, new politics can influence inflation and rates, interest rates, affecting how borrowing costs now will change. So what you want to do if you are considering, again, we were talking about that, if you're thinking about pursuing your business and the time is right and you are going after a particular loan, or if you're in business already and you need to do a loaning for procurement of more business rather than equipment, and you want to do something new, or you're looking at expanding with a new vendor partner, now is the time to lock in on a good rate, lock in on a favorable rate. as rates are traditionally, they rise during a transition. So if you're considering that, the potential is to be able to do that while it's lower. You also definitely want to, as we look at monetary policy, you want to manage your cash flow for higher interest rates, expenses as you have them. So try and pay down higher interest rates, right? You want to manage your cash flow for these higher interest rates so that you have enough money, that you're solvent enough, that you have enough cash revenue to be able to manage the things that you need to pay on a weekly or even daily basis for your business. So you really want to look at that. So we want to talk about lastly. So now that we talked about some of those potential influences that could happen during a election transition, some of the things that, again, these are traditional, these are standard things that happen. You have changes to policies. You have changes to the ways that we do things. You have changes to minimum wage. You have changes to regulations. You have changes to trade and tariffs. You have changes to tax policies. These are the things that often happen. So you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, have to be thinking advance. You have to be prepared for that so you won't be caught unaware. So as we think about your business, here's some practical things that you can do. For financial resilience, reinforce your cash reserves. Reinforce what you have available. While we have potential tax and regulatory changes that may come, maintaining a good cash cushion can help you. How many know that? Money is always a value. And so maintaining a good cash cushion is very important for you as a business owner. You might want to consider, you might want to pursue maybe some of the things that you were thinking about, extra expenses and putting out this year. You might want to consider, do I really need it right now? Perhaps the decision would be to hold the cash, right? And prioritize paying down my debt. Hold cash. Don't get any new expenses. If you're already in business, don't get any new, but hold on to cash and then pay down your debt, especially if we believe that debt interest rates will increase, right? So we want to do that. So create a 3 to 6 month plan of reserves. Create 3 to 6 months of reserves so that you're able to recover if you need to. You want to make sure that you're able to cover all your essential expenses if the economy has a change for a slowdown. So if we have a slowdown, you're ready. You have already planned ahead. This is November. We're planning ahead for changes that could potentially happen. And so again, you want to create a 3 to 6 months cash reserve. Make a plan to do that. I know you might say, Pastor, I'm not able to do that right off the bat, but you can make a plan to do that. You can start looking at your expenses and your revenue and start drawing down on where you were pushing out so much and now start saving and paying off. Let's have a pivot so that even our mindset starts to change, okay? Look at scenario planning. When we did contingency planning for your business, we did those what ifs. Why do you save money for contingency? Just in case something happens. You want to do that even in this scenario, right? What kind of scenarios can happen? We can have some good things, but we can also have the best or worst. And so you want to go back and look at your SWOT analysis. We've done this before, but it's time to do it again. What is SWOT? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You want to go back and do an analysis, a complete analysis again of your business under a different policy outcome. I want to look at it from a different, when I did it a few months ago, we were doing it from our current economic climate. We want to go back and do this same exact analysis, but now based on what could potentially change. Some of those things and those dynamics that I mentioned today, as it could influence your business, what do you now need to go back and consider, right? How do I need to now go back and enable myself to have the right information so that I can now say, maybe there is something different that I didn't think it was a threat, but maybe it is a threat now. There is something that I thought was an opportunity, and so maybe I need to pursue it. There's something that I thought was my strength, but if the economy shifts, if there's a change in dynamics, I might not be as strong in that area as I thought. So having that opportunity to go back and revisit is very important as a leader. The next part of that scenario planning you want to consider is having flexibility in planning. Plan for conservative and aggressive growth, right? Depending on the economic opportunities and conditions that we experience. So here's what we're saying. You want to have a plan if everything is going well, and you want to have another plan if everything doesn't. And that way, whatever happened, you have a flexibility in your planning. I'm not just shooting for the stars and don't plan if something goes wrong. We never want to have that kind of plan. We want to be able to have a plan that's duality, especially in a time like this, so that I know my options already, so that I'm being proactive, not reactive, so that I'm staging myself so that it don't come to me as a surprise. That's why when you plan, it helps eliminate anxiety. When you know that things can go wrong and you prepare for them, then if something does go wrong, you're not shaken. We're trying to prepare you for resilience. We're trying to prepare you to be able to stand. We want to prepare you for the shifts that comes during this time. And we have to be prepared to navigate the waters. We have to be able to live in the reality and recognize that it will or it can happen. And so when we have the flexibility of planning, it gives you the dynamics that you need to shift and to pivot. So one of those things you want to do is identify one key adaptation. What is it? One key thing that it goes for the worst I could do. One key thing, maybe it's service expansion or maybe it's cutting the cost that I can implement based on the economic outcome. If it's great, here's what I know I want to do. That's my one thing. If it goes and it is a slowdown in the economy, here's the one thing I need to do that would give me the most benefit. And I want to hone in on that because we talked about that before. We can have a lot of plans, but what is the one thing that will give you the best return on income, return on your investment, return on your time, return on your allocation that you're having from your team? What is the one thing that you can engage, that you can implement that will give you the most payback? And that's the thing that we want to consider. Lastly, we want to talk about investing in technology. So we talked about that. How can we invest in technology? This helps us for efficiency. This helps us to improve our own personal allocation. This helps us for automation to potentially increase as the potential increase of labor, as labor may likely increase or potentially increase. Having automation may help us maintain profitability. Where we're spending out a lot in some manual instances, automation may be able to help us to still do the same thing, but with less costs. And so that's what we want to think about. How can automation help me in my current field or in my area of expertise? How can I use automation to now help me be more efficient and to help me mitigate in my cost? You want to consider maybe a tech upgrade. Of course, line of sight, you need to look at whether it is profitable for you to do a tech upgrade at this time. But you definitely want to look at whether it will be crucial to be able to help what we have today, help go to the next level, will also help with automation, because maybe in the version you have today is outdated and you're having to do a lot of things. But the next version of it, there are a lot of manual things that are now taken away. So it might be to your advantage to upgrade what you have before you go and pursue something new. That's what we're saying. Perhaps before you get another automation or another tool or another resource, look at what you already have and evaluate, do they have an upgrade that also meets my needs? Again, you don't want to have a lot of automation or use a lot of software and have them and don't use them. We know a lot of people, we talked about that early on in the year, going back through some of the things that we're paying for and we never use. That could be a cost saver for you too. Go back through and look in your environment, look in your organization, in your operation, and look at things that you're paying for. And does it make sense? Does it make sense to continue? It may have worked 5 years ago, may have worked 3 years ago, may have worked 2 years ago or 1 year ago. Does it make sense today? And does it make sense for tomorrow? These are the kind of evaluations that you want to do as you look at the economic trends of things that could potentially happen. And so what we want to do, again, look through what we are paying for now, look for ways of automation or upgrade that help us make more efficient use of what we already have in our organization, or give us another line of sight to efficiency and to cost saves. And so we want to thank you on today as we get ready to close out. These have been a lot of actionable things that you can do. So we talked about diversifying in your your revenue streams, good revenue streams in your marketplace, diversifying in how you get things into your for trades and tariffs that could potentially change. How do you get merchandise in? How do you get merchandise out? You want to look at labor and minimum wage policies that could potentially change, changes to the Federal Reserve, changes to money policies, changes to taxation. I know you said, Pastor, that's a lot of changes. It is. It's potentially something that always occurs during this time, and it could potentially influence how you do business. But we want to encourage you that now is the time to start evaluating your own business. So I want to just give you some actions that you can take away with you today. Access cash flow and debt strategy. Make sure that you're looking at that, your cash flow and your debt strategy. Make sure you're pursuing that. Look and plan for potential changes in regulatory and taxes, and so that you can do that scenario planning. Best case, worst case, so that you're prepared and you don't have anxiety. You're not moved. You don't have to do any knee-jerk decisions. You're able to make a wise decision because you've already evaluated. You're already given time to it for analysis. And therefore, you are confident in the decision that you're going to make. And then also invest in efficiency and diversify in your revenue streams. Right. So we want to thank you for joining us today on Money Monday. We want to remind you that it is important that you remain resilient and that you have adaptability in these uncertain times. And we want to encourage you to continue to be proactive with these steps to allow your business to grow regardless of the potential climate. You win. And so we want to give you the encouragement that you need to continue to steer your business. So thank you again. I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. This is Money Monday on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. Please go onto our website, go onto our YouTube, like, share, subscribe. We're glad to have you with us. See you on next Monday. Peace and blessings.